Hi everybody, welcome to episode 10 of CFL Trade Tree. My name is Robert Dalton, co-host of the Rouge Radio podcast, and I've been doing this for quite some time. Kind of made it sound like I've been doing this for years, but after 10 and 9 episodes, you kind of get a very little grasp of trades in the CFL, and it's quite interesting. But one thing we haven't really seen throughout these trade trees is teams who have made a trade in order to win a Grey Cup and then use those assets that they acquired to gain more Grey Cups. Now, in episode 1, the closest thing that the Bombers would have done would trade Stephen Giles, making a couple more trades, and allowed them the opportunity to acquire Zach Collaros to win the Grey Cup. Now, that's all fun and games and whatnot, but if the assets that they used to acquire Zach Collaros were what they acquired in the trade, that works out perfectly. But the dominoes fell at a certain point where it gave the Bombers an opportunity to acquire Zach Collaros. That's not what I was kind of interested in. The closest thing throughout this all episodes is episode 5, when I was talking about how the Matt Dunnigan, or Edmonton Football Club, traded Matt Dunnigan to the BC Lions. They got 6 assets out of that one. And it actually got them a trip to the Grey Cup in 1993. Well, actually first in 1990 before they lost that one. In 1993, they got the revenge by beating the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They got to the Grey Cup game again in 1996, and they won the Grey Cup in 2002 and 2005. Throughout that time, they managed to acquire assets, trade for more, and it helped them. But, a little asterisk there, because when you get so many assets, a law of averages would indicate that you could probably work it out to the way that they wanted to. Well, like this week's trade tree, it actually benefits the Edmonton Football Club, and it works out just the way that the perfect trade tree is. And today I'm going to show you how the Edmonton Football Club managed to win 2 Grey Cups by dumping the quarterback Nealon Greene. There should be a little bit of context in this trade tree, especially for the primary one. In 2002, the quarterback landscape was a little bit murky, but somewhat clear in the CFL. In Ottawa, there was the expansion draft. They got Dan Crowley from the Edmonton Football Club. In Montreal, there's Anthony Calvillo. Hamilton, Danny McManus. Toronto was the beginning of the Michael Bishop era. Winnipeg had Kakari Jones. Calgary, because they just won the Grey Cup, stuck with Marcus Crandall. Edmonton, they had Jason Moss and a young rookie, up-and-coming sensation by the name of Ricky Ray, and of course BC had Damon Allen. What did Saskatchewan have? Well, they had Henry Burris before he bolted to the NFL 1 year prior, and then they just really had nothing. So they were kind of desperate, so they reached out to Edmonton and they pulled off the trade, and it looks like this. The Edmonton Football Club sent quarterback Nealon Greene, fullback Simon Buffo, and a 2002 second-round pick, which ended up being 15th overall. In exchange, the Edmonton Football Club acquired running back Darren Davis, punter Michael Bryan, and offensive lineman Dan Comiskey. Now, general manager at the time, Roy Shivers, actually gets a lot of credit for the 07 Grey Cup win, and rightfully so. That team, aside from a couple moves, is Shivers stamped all the way. He made a lot of great moves, but for every great move that he had, there's a couple of head scratchers. This trade was kind of one of them. Now, what I went about the quarterback landscaping, that was a lot of context into that, because who in their right mind would go out and acquire Nealon Greene unless you were desperate and there wasn't a lot of options available. So let's go to how this trade starts on the Saskatchewan side, shall we? In his time in Saskatchewan, Nealon Greene's time could be described as moderately successful. Although they weren't all-star numbers, they were adequate, to say the least. And although Nealon Greene was a force behind that, he just could not stay healthy. In 2003, they went out and got Henry Burris back from the NFL, and he barely saw the action in 2004. In 2005, they actually signed Marcus Crandall to back up Greene, but because Greene wasn't getting it done at that point, they decided to switch it up and have Marcus Crandall start the rest of the year. And even though Greene actually started the last game of the regular season to get him into the playoffs as an Eastern crossover, Marcus Crandall actually started the Eastern semifinal against the Montreal Alouettes before being ousted, one and done in 2005. In April of 2006, though, the Saskatchewan Roughriders made a trade to acquire Kerry Joseph, and we all know the rest of that story. They didn't need Nealon Greene, So they actually shipped him to Montreal in exchange for defensive back Armando Curry. Nealon Greene didn't play that much, of course, with Anthony Calvillo getting to play anytime he did. He didn't even complete the entire season, and he actually retired after the 06 season. Armando Curry, some highlights, some bright spots, but nothing name-worthy out there. A couple of interceptions, a few tackles per game, and his career in Saskatchewan ended after the 06 season, and he went down to the Arena Football League. The rest of the Saskatchewan side of this is rather quick. Simon Biffo did not make it out of training camp. He was cut. The second round draft pick was actually used to select a guy by the name of Francois Bouillon, and I know I butchered that name probably. It's French. Doesn't really matter because he was also cut in training camp. Start with kicker Mike O'Brien because, well, the Edmonton Football Club loved their special teams, and Mo O'Brien didn't make it out of training camp either way. So there's so far 3 people didn't make it onto the respective rosters in 02, and this trade's kind of a wash already. But there is the potential of a running game in Edmonton by the name of Darren Davis. Well, Darren Davis eventually wore out his welcome. He was traded to the Ottawa Renegades. Now, this is kind of an iffy trade. Like, Edmonton kicked ass in this trade, to be honest with you. The only way that they can actually get a little bit more perfect rate on this trade is that they got more out of their asset in the form of their first round pick that they got. Well, Darren Davis was traded 4 months after the original acquisition, sent to the Ottawa Renegades in exchange for a first round pick. Yeah, they actually switched first round picks. It was actually a first and Darren Davis for another first. Whatever, it's all CFL in 2002. Darren Davis actually played for a majority of his time and got released after the 2003 season before signing up for Montreal. That ends that one. Who were the first round picks? Well, here's where Edmonton actually wins out on this one. The guy that they chose, Kojo Aidu. Now, exactly a big name in the form of actually CFL draft grades, but he played a couple of games, had a couple of special teams tackles, which is more than what Ottawa did because they selected defensive lineman from the University of Manitoba, Israel Idonije, which you can tell, yeah, he never played at all in the CFL, not much less for the Ottawa Renegades. He went directly to the NFL to sign on the contract with the Chicago Bears and represented Manitoba and the CFL on the Super Bowl. Well, they didn't win the Super Bowl. They lost the big man in the close. But I digress. Get to the meat and potatoes of this one. Dan Comiskey, yeah, he played in right away, helped Edmonton get to the Grey Cup before losing to Montreal. Oh, but they won the Grey Cup the year after. Great, so you're already paying dividends with this one trade and you're not getting any production out of that quarterback that you just shipped off. Great. But wait, before the 2005 season, Dan Comiskey was sent to the Hamilton Tiger Cats in exchange for defensive end Joe Monfort. Now, we don't need to really go into analyzing the 05 Grey Cup. We know that Edmonton won that one, but what you don't know is they got Dan Comiskey back. In 2005, October to be exact, one of the most confusing trades that actually involved another trade, which was future considerations. I covered this in episode 6. It was a trade that acquired Troy Davis and Dan Comiskey to the Edmonton Football Club in exchange for Brock Ralph, Ty Cody, and a first-round pick in 2006, and of course future considerations. Those future considerations was actually a separate trade that was involving quarterback Jason Moss, which was not complete until after the 05 season. We know it was just kind of a trade. It was just Hugh Campbell having his way. All right, here comes the CFL haters. All right, so look at this. If you're an Edmonton fan, you love this trade. You shipped off Nealon Greene, a second-round pick, and Simon Biffo, and you get 3 Grey Cup appearances and 2 Grey Cup champions, and you get a year of Joe Monfort, and you get Dan Comiskey twice, and you get Troy Davis, who actually stays with you until the 06 season. Now, granted, they didn't make the playoffs in 06. That kind of complicates things. But that's the end of this Trade Tree video. Tell me what you like. Hit a comment below if you really like to subscribe. We have other content available, including the audio portion of our podcast that will be loaded up pretty soon. If you have any future Trade Tree suggestions, hit them up on Twitter. You can find me at Rouge Dalts, my podcast at Rouge Radio, and of course, like I said before, This video is powered by the Canadian Football Podcast Network. You can follow them at CF Pod Network on Twitter.